Well, we're back with you to talk a little livestock market action right now. And to do that, we bring in a little expert help. Chris Swift.
Good morning, Marlin. Doing great. How are you this morning?
Good to have you on board
once
again
sir.
To help us take a look at livestock. I know you love to watch the cattle market.
I do indeed.
Wanted to get your thought on the cattle on feed report that came out Friday. We have those numbers for everybody. We had the on feed number coming out at 108%, placements at 104%, and marketing's at I believe 106. So how did you interpret those numbers?
Well, they're a little unfriendly right now. Before, those numbers hadn't mattered too awful much because we had the momentum of the economy moving for us, and that increase in demand helped offset the supply. Now we seem to be kind of saturated in our employment situation, and the likelihood of us being able to grow at an extensive rate compared to what we already have is probably not as good. So we really need some movement further in the economy to continue to boost beef demand. I think right now it's going to kind of hit a status quo position.
So what did you think of the cash cattle trade that developed last week?
Well, right after Wednesday, they started trading cash cattle again. They had a slight mishap in the market where we dropped considerably in a very short period of time, and that kind of changed the sentiment just a little bit. After that, cattle began to break free pretty loose there at the 128 level, too lower than the previous week, and that has set the stage now. And unfortunately, I think that loss of momentum and loss of sentiment in the market is going to be with us for a little while.
Well, let's take a look at our futures here, Chris. And this morning on the live cattle trade, let's go ahead and take a look here. On the live cattle board, we have the February contract down 35. We're at 127.65. April now down 35 at 124.50. That has come off of its high by about 25 cents. But I guess importantly, it's off of its low here by, looks like about 70 cents or so in that neighborhood here this morning. We have June now 50 lower at 116.30. So they have kind of elevated off of their earlier morning lows. Now on the feeder cattle side, right now you have your March now 28 higher, Chris, at 146.28. It had been significantly lower. We have April now 7 higher at 148.57. The deferreds, though, are still weaker. What does that mean?
You know, I'm not real sure just yet. I think there's a lot of trading taking place right now that's going to sort out that on-feed report. So I won't use a lot of today's data for significant saying this is going to happen like this. So I think we'll see some mixed trading. I think the further out that you get down the road, the better off it will be. But for right now, we've got some inventory that we need to get marketed.
So is this related in any way on the feeder cattle market to the continuing dryness out there in the southern plains?
It has a great deal to do with it, and we've moved tremendous numbers of inventory off that wheat pasture out there. We did notice that the lightweight cattle place started to slow down considerably, and these were heavier weight cattle. So although the drought in one way impacts the wheat cattle, it's very good growing conditions for the remainder of those cattle in a background lot where subsidy feeds are fed to them.
Interesting way to look at that. All right, I'm glad you brought that up. What about lean hogs? Let's take a look at our futures here, Chris, and get everybody updated here on our current lean hog trade. Right now, you have your April contract 37 higher at 71.75. You have your May 25 higher at 77.85. They had been lower, Chris, but now we're higher on the day.
Yeah, and I think that's just some trading this morning. The hog market is already kind of pronounced in a slightly bear market. We've been moving down for about 3 weeks now in the hog market. We've evened up the basis to right at even with the April contract. So there's not a great deal of wiggle room between the basis and the hogs, and we're going to produce more hogs. And we've just got some protein that we're going to have to chew through the next couple of weeks to get through some of these gluts.
All right, so if we take a look at our product values, we had the beef cutout values from Friday afternoon. We also had the pork product values from Friday afternoon. Now, on the beef side, everything was kind of mixed. Choice cuts were a little bit weaker. We had the select cuts actually a little bit higher Friday. But on the pork side, everything was definitely firmer. Is that really going to support the hog trade here this week?
Probably not a great deal because a lot of that's for Easter. You get a lot of the ham movement coming in for Easter. So I think that a lot of that, we noticed some features because pork had been a little bit cheaper over the last several weeks. We noticed some greater features in the pork market for retail grocery stores than what we did beef. So that could be a little bit of a promotional for the pork industry there.
Well, I know we talked about that last time you were here, when they would do their buying for the Easter hams, but we wondered if that was actually lifting all the primal cuts.
Probably not all of them, but it sure doesn't hurt any of it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it very much. Chris Swift, he's with Swift Trading Incorporated in Nashville. Just down the street.
It's a busy week here in Nashville as well. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really appreciate that. We'll keep following those markets today. Could get interesting.